Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to our Let's Play series of Strategic Command World War II, World at War, and we are, what are we, like 56 episodes in, I think? Roughly, maybe 57, and we have just conquered the Soviet Union. In our last episode, the Soviet Union surrendered. We still have quite a few troops in the Soviet Union itself, all through here. We don't actually have to garrison based on the partisan maps, but I am going to leave some troops behind in the likes of Moscow, Perm, Kuybyshev, and other key cities like Stalingrad, Leningrad, and what have you. But with that being said, we have already begun the transition of our troops from the Russian theater to the Western theater. We haven't quite completed it yet, but we've moved a big chunk of our air units, not many ground units yet, but a big chunk of our air units have moved to Western Europe, which should make defeating the Americans here in France that much easier. Additionally, we've also sent a very small amount of reinforcements to the Italian theater, and we've sent a reasonable amount to the Middle East to crush the British in Iraq, and then perhaps swing into India or maybe swing across the deserts of North Africa and liberate it from the clutches of the Allies. We probably will send some troops to Italy as well and hopefully crush the Americans there, as well as throwing them into the sea in France. And that's the situation in the European theater. China has also surrendered to the Japanese, and now they have begun the long road of marching backwards from the Chinese rule capital of Urumqi, so they can deal with the British in India. The objective of the Chinese there, or the Japanese there, is going to be invading India and taking Delhi and knocking India out of the war, which India has 12 units. They're the third most powerful country in the game left right now, so they're a pretty serious threat we need to deal with. Meanwhile, the American fleet has been largely crippled in the Pacific. We just sank 2 more battleships, a carrier, 2 destroyers. We know there's still 1 American carrier here. Last we saw there was a British carrier here in Darwin, and the Americans have landed and taken the eastern half of the island of Java. But that being said, the Japanese fleet seems to be, at least locally, superior to the Allies, and we need to do some massive reinforcements to the fleet, or at least replenishment to the fleet to get its strength back up, because it's pretty badly beat up. We have 2 new carriers which have just arrived, which also need to be upgraded with better aircraft, but they should help bolster our strength. And maybe, just maybe, if once we knock India out of the war, I'd seriously consider invading Australia. I think if we could figure it out. There's some pretty tough logistics there, but it would be a nice feather in our cap. And that's the situation right now. We're in the process of trying to bring Japanese forces back. Japan also got the eastern half of Russia. So it's a literal man in the high castle right now, and we're trying to finish it off here and stop the Allied counteroffensive in Europe. With that being said, one other thing. We finally knocked Brazil out of the war as well. The Brazilian garrison unit that had been holding out in Rio de Janeiro for like 6 months finally was overwhelmed and destroyed, and Brazil will presumably surrender next turn, because I don't think they actually have any alternate capitals in Brazil. I don't see any. So that'll be one more thing that'll weaken the Allies and strengthen the Axis. So let's go ahead and start the Allied turn, which will bring us into October of 1944. You can see here Brazil surrenders, so Germany plunders 25 MPPs from Brazil, 25 from Leningrad, apparently, by moving troops in there. French partisans are disrupting supply in Nancy. Axis supplies hindering the island of Crete, which still has some Greek troops on it, I think. Germany's getting 1,000 MPPs this turn, 25 from plundering Leningrad, minus 50 for the Don Cossack Cavalry Corps, so about 1,000 MPPs this turn. Japan collected 579. So both Axis powers substantially stronger now that the Soviet Union is under their control. And again, it's weird that Russia has no partisan hexes. I'm worried that maybe there will be some kind of uprising in Russia if we move too many troops out. But there's been no indication from the game that that could occur. And the game also doesn't have any partisan hexes for the Russians. So I think we'll leave some key garrisons in places like Leningrad, Stalingrad, Moscow, Perm, Kuybyshev. But other than that, we'll probably pull the bulk of our troops out to deal with the Americans. The challenge we're going to have now is we're probably going to have more units than we have positions, even probably too deep to be able to attack the Americans, because the front is very narrow. I've also moved most of my tactical air force. I'll probably move the rest tomorrow, and really the hope there is that we, essentially are able to diminish the effectiveness of the Allied fighter aircraft in escorting their bombers, and maybe we can stop this bombing campaign that the Allies are waging against us. Apparently not those strategic bombers that were flying to Bordeaux. But whatever. Honestly, if the Allies want to take Bordeaux, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that southern part of France. It's just kind of a salient for us to deal with. Some TAC Air just finished off a garrison unit there in Holland, but again, it already did its job by finishing the destruction of a British corps just last turn. And it's a garrison unit, so it's only 50 MPPs. We can easily replace that. Interceptors are doing some damage. Anti-aircraft doing some damage to those British tactical aircraft. The British are continuing to attack at Oh my god, that Italian unit's down to 3? Ugh. If the Allies attack there, we could be in some serious trouble. Meanwhile, that artillery in France is coming in handy there, as it's giving some defensive artillery fire and diminish that effectiveness of that attack. Oh shit. The American mechanized breakthrough in southern Italy. We've got one garrison in front of Naples, but they have broken out in Italy there. Paratroopers are landing. The Americans are landing. Ha ha ha! The paratroopers tried to land. They got intercepted by our fighter aircraft and got ravaged. They lost 6 HP, or hit points, and then they also lost 1 on landing. Oh shit, an invasion of New Guinea. Where the fuck did they come from? Well, this has been an interesting turn. American breakthrough in Italy. Thank God we've got all those reinforcements. We can easily stop that breakthrough. Probably turn it back on its head. Probably should have moved some of the TAC Air to Italy. There's not a lot of Allied fighters in Italy. I also did buy 2 Japanese submarines, so those should arrive in about 6 months, I think it is, or 6 turns. And that'll be useful because the Americans have a lot of, their carriers are vulnerable to submarines, especially, it seems to be they're sitting some carriers in ports, so subs can actually attack carriers when they're in ports, whereas battleships can bombard the port and destroy the supply, but they only have a small percentage chance of hitting the enemy warships in port. When they do hit, they do a lot of damage, but they have a very low likelihood of actually hitting the port. Meanwhile, it looks like the Americans have a fighter unit in Brazil, because it just suffered some attrition damage after Brazil fell, and there apparently are Iraqi rebels that are hindering Allied supply in Iraq, so that could play into our hands a bit. If only Turkey would join our side, it wouldn't actually strengthen us that much. Dusseldorf, Kristiansand, the garrison destroyed. Bordeaux, damage from bombing. 42nd Tactical destroyed. An American tactical bomber unit destroyed? Nice. 5th Italian Army destroyed. Alright, so we know there's a corps in Cairo there. That's the only intel we got. Our Tiger tank there is damaged, or it's cut off. Probably no feasible way to get it out of there. Move our unit that was in Rome down there. Alright, let's operate this armored unit to Italy. Close the gap there. We're also going to move a headquarters unit to Italy. We have a fair amount of money to play with. So move him to Bali. This mech unit's going to reinforce. So are these guys. And this guy can't actually operate. So we're going to move him here. Actually, there. We'll move this corps as a reserve to Italy. So we'll cram in southern Italy there. Shoot, I need one more. Move him to Sevastopol. I need one more. No, we're going to operate this Italian corps to Rome. just in the event the Americans try and land behind our lines. Alright, so those guys are going to get back on the rails. Why can't these guys reinforce? Just not close enough to good supply, I guess. Gotta get these guys on rail lines so they can get out of here. Alright, they are. Alright, so we're moving this garrison unit into Kubizhev. This cavalry unit, I think, will move to Perm as a garrison there. These are the two capitals that we took. Alright, so reinforce these guys to full strength. Reinforce this Italian Air Force unit. Continue flying him back to Italy. Alright, so meanwhile, it looks like it's raining in France, so we can't use our Air Force. We also are exposed here. Wow. Alright, we're going to destroy that American landing force. And we almost destroyed him. Get him! Alright, so the American landing at Dunkirk went over about as well as the Battle of Dunkirk. So we destroyed 2 American units near Lille, or near Dunkirk. They landed without any supply, any port, or any HQ. Don't do that if you're playing this game. That's a bad idea. Meanwhile, we'll reinforce these fighters. These guys can't really do anything this turn. So we might as well upgrade these bombers to include some naval weaponry, because the plan is when we start seeing enemy naval units like up here, and we're able to, so we're gonna hit them. Those guys can't reinforce, so we're actually going to give them elite reinforcements, because they can't upgrade at all. Can they upgrade? No, they can't. Okay. Can we upgrade these guys? Anti-aircraft and mobility. It doesn't actually help you fight, though. Alright, so we destroyed the American bridgehead there. The Italians are going to... or the Germans are going to swing south there. Oh, shit. I meant to not do that. Let's go ahead and move this army south here. Well, that didn't go over quite as well as I'd hoped. Alright, we'll attack there. Bring in these heavy tanks. These heavy tanks are going to crush these Danish rebels. They're going to crush the rebels. Helsinki is garrisoned. These cities on the north coast are garrisoned. We're going to operate these air units here. Again, like, I don't know where... I guess we can move them here. I just get kind of nervous about moving some of these units kind of that close. Especially since presumably we'd like some ground units in close. Is there anything worthwhile doing against these guys? Well, there's an army down there we could probably destroy. Defensive artillery. Okay. Ah, we almost got him. Got him! Alright. There you go. Retreat back there. Those are your orders. Alright, so I'd rather not move those guys there, though. I don't want to... I feel like I'm exposing these armored units to heavy enemy attack. They're not super strong, either. Let's destroy this enemy artillery unit. Got him! Okay. Is this our... do we have artillery there? They do. Nice. Alright, that Hungarian unit will attack. Swap out with that army. Get him! Done, done, done. Another one bites the dust. Alright, so this armored unit. Alright, so we're destroying the allied units there. We're pushing some of them back. I can't move him anymore, can I? I'm actually going to reinforce this tank. I don't want to take more casualties. Reinforce these coastal guns too, because they are kind of protecting our flank over here. Alright, so we destroyed multiple American units here. We destroyed 2 American units here. Good results. Good results, boys. Good results all around. All around. Good job. We upgrade him? No. I guess we can operate these strategic bombers. Okay. All right, I'm going to move some of these. Again, I'm moving some of these units along the coast. They can kind of act as a reserve there, too. Just keep that in mind. I mean, they may not have to be tied up permanently, but some of the key ports I'd prefer to keep easily in our hands. Again, if they're major morale centers, if they're potential areas that a new Soviet Union could try and rise up against us, then I want to make sure that we're sort of not ignoring them. Even Warsaw. I want to make sure there's no ghetto uprising in Warsaw. These guys are going to reinforce to max. We need more fighters in Europe, too. There's no money left for the Italians to operate. The Bulgarians can operate. We'll kind of move them toward Antwerp, just so we're... I mean, the other thing we are going to try and do is we're going to try and crush the British presence in Holland. So I'd like to do that as well. Let's reinforce these guys. Let's zoom out here. What's still in Russia? The Hungarian army. We do have a Hungarian HQ in France. So we'll bring a Hungarian army in to support the Cossack Cavalry Brigade. Probably be useful somewhere. Maybe against the British in Holland. Could use an Italian HQ up there too. We've got quite a few units over there. These guys can't move yet. So I think that does it for the Russian theater. The Romanians, where did we move them? We just moved one of them over here, so we'll move him to Cologne. And that's about it for the German money, too. So it's easy to blow through 1,000 MPPs. Definitely possible. Possibly. Alright. That's going to do it for those guys. Meanwhile, on the Brazilian front, we're going to move these guys toward the Americans. We're going to move this garrison. Oh, shit. Alright, let's just hope there's no uprising in Rio de Janeiro. Reinforce this Argentinian headquarters unit there in Buenos Aires. And then the only remaining German thing is the Middle East. So let's zoom in here. We've got these guys with good supply here. Let's attack with our mechanized troops first. Wow, we're losing some casualties there. Move our armored unit in. Should finish him off here. Got him! Racing down the road to Baghdad. On the road to Baghdad, guys. Don't worry, it'll be an easy fight. Never heard that before. It'll be a cakewalk. Oh, shit. There's going to be partisans in Iraq if we take it? Really? Well, aren't they on our side? They might actually be on our side. I don't know how that works with friendly partisans. It's an interesting question. Alright, so just advance with that core to kind of push them back out of the Sinai. Meanwhile, Baghdad should be invested next turn. I don't know if we'll actually take it, but that was really easy to steamroll that British core there. And that does it for the German Middle East invasion. So now we're back to the Japanese theater. So the Japanese are going to attack at Wanting. Nice. We'll take that city. Attack the Chinese headquarter unit there. There are going to be interceptors. We'll have escorts. Oh, shit. There's jet fighters that we're dealing with here in India. But that headquarters unit for the Allies is gone. That the Chinese headquarter unit here in Burma is also gone now. Our other strategic bombers there doing their job. Shit, Allied fighters are fucking jets. Alright, let's see. Langkow. Alright, just moving him here mainly to keep the guerrillas at bay. Move those guys down this road. Move this headquarters unit after them. Leave these guys at Umrichi. Move our other fighters south here. Hopefully, mostly free, actually. Alright, so these guys are all dealt with. Nothing to do over there. Honestly, there's no real point in having garrison units there, is there? Trying to move these guys to Port Arthur to get them on ships. Okay. So that about does it here in Manchuria. I need more garrison units as Japan, really. But I also don't really need as many land units as I have right now, either. It's a weird scenario. Boom! Take that. Yeah, your supply's gonna suck without that headquarter unit of yours. He does both of them. He does both of them. Why can't I still operate these guys? I don't know why I can't. Huh. Alright, well, that's going to do it, I think, for the Japanese. Probably need to move some of these guys south to help deal with the enemy in that direction. Or at least it's going to do with the Japanese in China. We haven't really figured out the Japanese elsewhere yet. So we'll reinforce the carrier because we want to rebuild it as quickly as we can. So spending all of our money reinforcing carriers and air wings. Upgrade those fighters. Man, I can't actually do anything with these guys. I've got to get them back to, like, different ports. Alright, so we know the American carrier is still here in Timor. So I'm just going to keep hitting it with subs. As much as I can, anyway. Is it worth trying to attack these guys? No, because their air wing's just going to obliterate us when we don't have fighter cover with our carriers. So until our carriers are down there, bad idea. Reinforce. We'll reinforce these aircraft. This carrier is completely reinforced, but it does need to upgrade. There you go. Brand new state-of-the-art aircraft carrier with a state-of-the-art air wing. Reinforce these guys. And I think this was a little bit of a quicker turn, but I think that's going to do it for this turn. For the most part. Actually, there's the one other thing, is the Americans did land here, but they have no supply. So that seems like a bad idea for them. So they've withdrawn up the Kodiak Trail. Meanwhile, actually, there's one other thing I wanted to do. That's land these guys, reinforce these guys. So these guys are going to have supply because I have a headquarter unit there, but hopefully we can hang on to this corner of the island of Java. We do need a headquarters unit somewhere. I need to get some of these masses of headquarters units to the coast so I can get them on transports. Reinforce this. Alright, so hopefully next turn we can focus on finishing off these special forces units, taking the rest of Burma, and then preparing for an invasion of India. We'll have to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, also hopefully we can take Iraq and bottle up the Americans here in Italy while continuing to drive at the Americans in France and maybe... Oh, shit. This guy needs to fall back. He's at 5 strength. Yeah. Fall back. I don't want to get you destroyed. I don't have any money to rail any other Germans nearby, otherwise I would. What's our production thing look like? When are we, how close are we? So German, whoa, level 4 are tanks. Panthers, they look like. February of 45, so still several months away. March of 45, December of 44. So we'll get some anti-aircraft guns before too long. And some Japanese submarines here in March of 45. So it's still a ways away to getting any of this stuff. But we'll have to see. I don't know. Overall, not a terrible turn. I do think we weakened the Allies a little bit. If we go here, Americans are actually stronger on ground units and naval units than they started the turn. The British are, I think, a little bit weaker. But the other thing that we need to factor in is national morale, right? Japanese morale's at 112. Germany's at 109. Italy is terrible at 43. They seem to be losing morale every turn. Although we did have that break out there in the loss of an Italian army, so that makes sense. We do have quite a few German troops in Italy now, though, so that should help in the event that Italy does capitulate. American national morale is down to 79, so they're taking a precipitous fall with all these casualties. And the British are at 59. So, the other thing we don't factor in is maybe they'll surrender or give us peace terms just by taking too many casualties. Although I'd rather go for a decisive victory and take London and knock the British out of the war. It's another option, I guess. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you're enjoying, as I continue to say, this series. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.